Thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to be talking all about employee rewards and recognition. We have a fireside chat today with some experts in this space, and I'm really excited to pick their brain. So thank you everyone for attending. And again, please don't be shy. Type comments in the chat. Let's engage there. So feel free to post anything there at any time throughout the presentation today. Today's session is brought to you by Bucket List Rewards. We are a #1 employee rewards and recognition platform. All of our panelists today, in full transparency, have used Bucket List at some point. So we're going to pick their brain about that, and they're going to be able to share some excellent strategies for how to build an effective rewards and recognition platform. The organizations that these excellent panelists represent are on screen now. So we have the American Marketing Association, which is the largest community-based professional marketing association in the world. We have Cloud Kitchens, an organization that helps food and beverage operators expand their operations, and Velocity, which is the world's largest organization of fully integrated clinical research sites. So a really nice broad range of conversation topics for today, and different industries related to those topics. When it comes to our agenda, we're going to kick things off with just some quick intros and a little bit of an icebreaker question for everyone to participate in. And then we're going to get into our fireside chat, which is where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. This is really going to be a fruitful conversation around building rewards and recognition strategies and programs. Our panel is going to be able to share their insights, what's worked really well for them. And I'm really excited to dive into that content. And then towards the end, we're going to share with you your credits, of course, that you'll get access to. We're going to share some key takeaways, and we're definitely going to leave some time for Q&A. So please do not be shy with your questions. The more questions you have, the better it's going to be for everyone. This is an opportunity for us all to learn. So really excited to hear your feedback and thoughts as we move through. And to kick things off, let's start off with some introductions. So I will introduce myself first. My name is Curtis Stieksma. I am a culture advocate at Bucket List Rewards. I have a very, very interesting and eclectic background. Once upon a time, I actually used to be a touring rock musician. So I've toured all over the country, lived on a tour bus, songs on the radio, the whole thing. But in the background, I always had a huge passion for technology and company culture. And so I've been in this space for about a decade now, and very excited to be emceeing and moderating today's discussion. Jennifer, I'll pass over to you.
See, you just blew my mind, and I had to Google you. And so now there's a lot of interesting hair decision choices that you made in your past. That
You're calling me out, are you?
Real impressed.
I see.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Howell, and I lead the People and Culture team at the American Marketing Association. As you saw in the previous slide, we are a nonprofit organization that serves the marketing community through the collegiate space, the marketing practitioners, as well as academics, where our organization is comprised of 75 team members nationwide. And we strive to be the most relevant voice shaping marketing around the world and be the essential community for marketers. I've been in the people and culture space for about 20 years in several different industries. So marketing, advertising, market research, product development, as well as the nonprofit space. I've been part of AMA's People and Culture team for 5 years, and I've been a SHRM certified professional since January.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jennifer. And let's pass over to you, Jean.
Boy, it's a tough act to follow. First a rock star, and then a great marketing person. So wonderful. It's nice to meet everybody on the call today. I'm Jean Lynn, based in Omaha, Nebraska, where it's nice and balmy, about 50 degrees today. Just a little bit about me. I am director of HR, but I also have a focus on employee experience now. So a lot in around engagement and retention of staff, very important across the globe, and we are not immune from that at Velocity. Our company is helping human health and well-being, and a lot of the work that goes into this is clinical trials, clinical studies. We work with pharma, we work with biotech companies to do clinical trials and studies of patients just to get their drugs approved. And so it's a really well-meaning company. We're about 1,800 employees around the globe and growing every day. So my focus is not only on engagement and retention, but also on acquisitions and the integration of new companies into Velocity. So it's nice to meet everyone. Hope you enjoy the time today.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Jean. And of course, Daniel, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Keel. I am the Global Compensation Analyst here at Cloud Kitchens. Prior to my current role, I was the HR business partner with Amazon, where I was part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee and led as the president of the affinity group known as Warriors at Amazon, where our mission was to unite veterans in the workplace and aid in the transition from the military to civilian workforce. As a U.S. Army veteran myself, I understood the challenges of that transition and was very passionate about being the beacon of lights for others throughout that process. I am truly honored to be invited here today and super excited to have some great discussions.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. I'm so excited to have you here and really excited for the discussion. Just a few quick housekeeping items for our attendees today. So as I mentioned, please ask questions, make some comments. The more interactive this is, the better it's going to be for everyone. So don't be shy. Use the chat box. Make sure that you select everyone as who you're messaging so that we can make sure that everyone's able to read your messages. If you have questions, please use the Q&A, and we're going to make sure that we address those at the end. Of course, we'll have an open dialogue there as well. But if you've got questions that pop up during the chat, drop them in the Q&A and we'll make sure that we answer them. We also have a few polls that we're planning. A few things to keep in mind for that. The results of the polls in terms of your response is anonymous, okay? So nobody is tracking your answer or anything like that, but we'd love to get your feedback. So when polls do pop up on the screen, please make sure that you answer them. It's also going to inform some of our discussion today. And then towards the end, we'll get into the credits that you'll receive. So we'll make sure to share that with you. You can track those down. We're also going to be recording today's session, which we will send to all participants and attendees at the end via email. So with that, I'd love to kick things off with a quick icebreaker question. So in the spirit of kind of building community together, I'd love to hear from all of our attendees today. So drop it in the chat there. How does recognition make you feel? So if you've ever been recognized in the workplace or maybe even in your personal life for accomplishments, what kind of a feeling did that create for you? Awesome. So appreciated from Jen, seen, valued, happy, content, valued. Awesome. I love it. This is, it's hitting the nail on the head, right? I think like $1 million. Holly, that's great. Awesome. And maybe for our panelists today, anytime that you've been recognized, is there a specific feeling that comes to mind for you? Seen, yeah.
Sometimes a lot of the work that we do just in general in people and culture and in human resources is keeping the wheels on the bus and keeping the train on the tracks and keeping moving. And sometimes people don't acknowledge that that takes a lot of work. So yeah. when we are recognized for that work, it's like, I'm not doing this for nothing.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a really big one, right? Just being seen and appreciated and know that people value the work that you're putting in. So that's awesome. It sounds like almost everybody is on the same page with that. And that's fantastic. I wanted to also start with a poll question. So this is going to help kind of focus some of the discussion today. We've got a few ideas for, what are some areas that we'd like to discuss, but I'm going to go ahead and just launch a poll. And that should be coming up on screen there for you. So you've got a list of answers that you can respond to here for where you'd like us to focus today. I'm going to leave this up for a few seconds. Can everyone see the poll okay? Yeah, awesome. Okay, it looks like we're starting to get some answers in here. Perfect. I'm going to let this roll just for a couple more seconds. If anyone has the Jeopardy music, now would be a good time to cue that in as these are rolling in. Awesome.
Let me see who's the musician in this panel. I think that would be...
Here, let me grab my guitar. Yeah,
that's a fair point. Fair point.
Perfect. All right. It looks like we've got almost everyone here has responded. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results. should be able to all see that on screen there. So it's actually a pretty good kind of blend and mix of some of the topics that we've suggested. So strategies for building a successful recognition program, measuring the impact of recognition, the ROI behind it, getting leadership buy-in, and making recognition accessible and inclusive. Of course, if any other topics come up, anything else you want to know about, please do share it in the chat. Appreciate your participation in the first poll. And I think with that, we can go ahead and get into our first question of the day. So I'd like to start off with kind of a fun one and ask our panelists, what is your favorite bucket list memory? And maybe we'll start with you, Jean.
So talking about recognition and how it makes you feel, this is kind of a trail on to that question, but this is a personal story about me. So I worked for a family-owned business until December of this year, and then we were acquired by a corporation. And at the end of last year, before we knew that the company was being sold, our owner did a fabulous Christmas party, huge. You would not believe it. She had 18 semis of fresh flowers and decorations coming in from California. I mean, it was this big splash. There were about 800 attendees. And part of that Christmas party was to focus on our core values. And we focus on core values through our bucket list, through the recognition program. And so at that time, every core value was going to get an award and given to someone who was nominated by our staff and then voted on by our owner and president of the company. So we went through the motions. I collected all the nominations. We had 4 core values. Everything was great. And they announced all 4, and I was just so excited for the winners. And then all of a sudden they're like, but wait, there's a 5th award that we're going to give out tonight. And I was eating my steak, cutting my potatoes, eating my salad. My husband was next to me. I was like, I've never heard of this other award, but okay. And they called my name. I was still cutting my food, eating my food. And my husband was like, Jean, they just called your name, get up on stage. And it was a Compass Award, which was all the core values. So talk about a good feeling and a total surprise. That was my story.
I love it, Jean. That's so amazing. Sounds like an incredible Christmas party, and congratulations on the award that you weren't expecting. That's always great.
Yeah.
I have a question around nominations. It sounds like, you have kind of a nomination process for how these core value awards are issued. How do you typically choose a winner? Like, is it just the person that gets the most votes? Is it, there's specific things that you're looking for in response or nominations? Like, how do you go through that process?
So we ask for nominations. We kind of lead them into what we really want to hear from them. It's not just, well, they're breathing or they smile at me or whatever. It's hardcore. Like, we want to hear relatable nominations. And so they kind of got sanitized by me as they got sent in, and then I would forward them up to our executive team at the time. They would review them, and again, they would look for those buzzwords in their selection process. So that's how we did it.
Awesome. So you're kind of acting as the firewall. When the initial group of nominations comes in, you determine, which of these are truly aligned to our values, and then the leadership team picks the ones that stick out.
Correct.
Right on. Okay, I love that. That's great. Let's ask you, Daniel, as well. We'd love to hear about your favorite bucket list memory.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely a few that come to mind, but one of my absolute favorites was October of last year, where Halloween is not only in October, but so is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we ran a campaign called Why I Wear Pink, where you post a selfie wearing pink, or you share a story of why you wear pink. And then for every post, our company would donate X amount to the American Cancer Society, which we were able to do directly through Bucket List. So that was an added plus. I was definitely amazed at the amount of feedback we received. A lot of people posted selfies in pink. A few ran 5Ks or 10Ks and shared photos. And some even shared personal stories in remembrance of a loved one. So what I ended up doing with all of these posts and photos is I made a collage to be pinned at the top of the homepage to show everyone the impact that we've made, and was also able to announce how much we were able to collectively donate.
Incredible. What a cool way to bring people together and kind of rally around an important cause. Am I understanding it correctly that so you had that set up for October and then the focus shifted after that? So you had kind of an item added to your marketplace and then taken out, or what was that process like? How easy was that in terms of setting it up?
It was definitely very user friendly. The experience or the option to donate was already set up in our configurations. And all I did was, I posted a note pinned it to the top of the page. So whenever you were to visit Bucket List, you saw that the campaign and all the details of when, how much time you had to submit and when the campaign was going to end.
Super smart. So you pinned it to the top of the activity feed. It was the first thing employees saw when they went, and it sounds like it was incredibly successful. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Jennifer, I'd love to hear from you as well on this one.
So I have a couple of stories, one that's kind of like Daniel's and one that's kind of like Jean's, but not me. So we, in our bucket list configuration, we have AMA swag, we have gift cards, we have experiences, we have donate to charity, and then we also have donate to the AMA. And so we utilized that donate to the AMA last year to trigger an internal Giving Tuesday for the AMA Foundation Diversity Leadership Fund. And because of how simple it was of people just throwing points at it, we ended up earning $1,900 just internally, which was wild and wonderful, and by far the biggest internal drive that we've ever had. Another example is we are located in 22 different states. We have people in 22 different states, and every year we fly everybody to Chicago and for a team member summit. And each individual team, like the accounting team and the finance team and the sales team, they all had separate time where they could go and do an activity of their choosing. And our alliances team wanted to do an event at Chicago Shed Aquarium. And it was a free day for people who were Chicago residents, but half of the team weren't Chicago residents. But the Shed Aquarium is one of the experiences that you can get from Bucket List. And so the people who had the points available, they went ahead and got that experience for the shed. And those who didn't have it yet, they said, hey, Savannah needs 10 more points so that she can join the team at the shed. And people started throwing money, throwing points at it. And so they were able to use those experience points to be in a shared space with one another as in team building. And then just on a personal level, I squirreled my points away for a solid year almost to help pay for hotel rooms on vacation. So I used hotel rooms in Japan, in Dublin, and in Belfast.
Super smart. Nice strategy. Love that. I guess there's a couple of really consistent themes I'm hearing. So one is, kind of rallying people around core values of the organization. Mm-hmm. Bringing people together, I think, is something I heard loud and clear there as well. And especially, through the pandemic and people kind of moving remote, obviously that's been a big challenge. So I love that story about people traveling in together and having an experience. And then, of course, giving back. That was the big theme that I heard, which is fantastic. So thank you all for your answers on that one. Are we good to move on to the second question? Let's do it. Okay. So question number 2, what inspired you to implement a rewards and recognition program? And then why did you choose Bucket List as your partner for that? And so Jennifer, why don't we toss back to you and have you start on this one?
Sure. So I think what inspired us to implement a rewards and recognition program, we did it well before we had Bucket List, and you're hearing a lot about core values and core competencies, and that is the same for the AMA. And one of our core competencies is gratitude. So prior to Bucket List, we had a program in place, but we knew that we wanted to put stakes in it, and we wanted it to feel very real and very tangible. And Bucket List was able to provide that. So it was also a place where we could have employee awards, like Jean had said. The team member referral program, we could add those as awards in bucket list. We could have birthday, like bucket list points awarded for birthdays and trigger automatically, work anniversaries, new hire swag, everything all in one place. And as a fully remote organization, we wanted a platform that was going to be inclusive of everyone's needs as possible. So it was a big, big ask. And one of the reasons why we chose Bucket List was because it was a space where managers and leaders could see kind of the on the ground working collaboration that was happening regularly just by looking at the feed, and model that collaborative mindset to their teams and with other teams in a very kind of acknowledging in a way, in a space where everybody else sees it.
I love it. So, kind of bringing people together,
Mhm.
maybe expanding the communication, allowing leadership to see what's happening, boots on the ground, because often they're pretty disconnected from that. Okay, fantastic. Jean, how about you? Let's pass to you on this one.
Yeah, so when we first implemented this program, we had a need to be more consistent in our recognition. Our owner was doing, whenever anybody had a baby, she'd send them a gift. When anybody had this or that, she'd send them a gift. And it was like, wait a minute, not everybody's getting to have recognition or getting a gift from you. So that was the impetus behind us getting into a recognition, a more consistent, formalized process. Why did we choose Bucket List? Because it's the best out there. We vetted 3 or 4 other vendors, and this one absolutely checked all the boxes that we had. We wanted to provide our employees with experiences. We wanted to give them a gift card option and also a charitable donation option. So this hit the mark, and I can tell you that the implementation of Bucket List was flawless for us. So kudos to the Bucket List team.
Well, first of all, thank you for that, Jean. That's incredible. And I know, one thing I hear about all the time from customers is that implementation is the big thing that scares everyone, because it's all about change management, right? So how do we get this thing stood up? How do we get widespread adoption, people engaged and actively using it? And, a lot of that comes down to setting up the program correctly, making sure that it appeals to your employee base. And I had a quick follow-up question on that. Can you maybe just high level share what that implementation process looked like for you? Like, was there a lot of training involved, communication, those types of things?
Yep. So we had an implementation plan, and we met weekly to get that implementation plan off the ground, and we had to-dos. So we were held accountable, and so was Bucket List. It was a dual threat process. And what we found was that we were all in it for the same reason, right? We wanted to have a great product for our staff, and so did Bucket List. As far as the communication to employees, it was so easy with our staff. I did literally 2 teasers via email with a postcard about, hey, something big is about to happen here, and we sent like some kind of a logo with Bucket List, I think it was. And I'll tell you what, we were told about needing ambassadors to get this off the ground. We did not need one ambassador. This group was all in from the moment those teasers went out, and they're ultra competitive. So they were ready to go. We hosted 2 meetings with Bucket List and all the staff, and they all attended. Our owner was on. It just was amazing. So it's exactly what should happen.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, and glad to hear it was so successful. One other quick follow-up question. When it comes to, you said there was sort of a split of responsibilities. So you had a list of like accountables on Bucket List side and on your side. I'm just curious how much work was required on your side. Like, did you feel that was a big lift, or what was your experience like there?
No, it really wasn't. I'm all about, because I have a compensation background too, Daniel. So, I like the process part of it, but I felt that it wasn't a heavy lift at all. I would say it was probably, 75% Bucket List, 25% us. And everybody was so engaged that it just went so easily.
Awesome. Okay, well, great. Glad to hear that. Thank you. Daniel, would love to hear your perspective on this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We looked to a rewards and recognition program to tackle a few different items. One of them being a lot of manual or untracked rewards and recognition already, like gift cards and president's clubs and return to work gift baskets, etc. Drilling down those expenses across multiple countries, started to become a daunting task. So we wanted one platform as a catch-all. And, additionally, we also wanted something where we could celebrate the moments that matter, work anniversaries, birthdays, promotions, achievements. Oftentimes if those moments get overlooked, it can lead to dissatisfaction or feeling undervalued or underappreciated. But most importantly, we wanted to incorporate some fun into the workplace and encourage recognition to cross collaboration teams. So we looked at countless reward programs, and we landed on Bucket List because it was user friendly and specifically for its unique experiences.
Awesome. And so I want to drill a little further into experiences, because that is something that makes us a little bit different than other companies in this space. Is there a particular reason that you feel experiences are valuable or hold perhaps extra meaning for employees?
I would view experiences like an adult arcade. In an arcade, you would spend money, win tickets, and then redeem a toy or some candy. Whereas here, you're rewarded for being you, or you're rewarded for an achievement or for a KPI. And then in turn, you would use those coins for an experience. Now, a fun story that I want to share is when we first launched, we had our team in Mexico that one of their experiences was a hot air balloon ride over one of the pyramids. And it became this unofficial competition / collaboration to see, like, hey, like let's get these points so we can do this experience together.
So cool. Love that they work together. And that's seems to be a theme here as well. Employees like kind of coming together and sharing experiences together. So I love
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
And
it's great when it happens organically.
100%. Also, I might have to borrow that adult arcade analogy because that was fantastic. So thank you for that. Great. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one. So this is an important one because it's all about the sort of challenges that you've experienced. So the question is, what are the key challenges that you face when launching the program specifically? And how did you address them? This is, of course, assuming you had some challenges, and I'm sure there was some, maybe some larger than others, but would love to hear some feedback on this. And Daniel, why don't we come back to you and we'll start with you on this one.
Yes, absolutely. I would say one of the key challenges was definitely gaining buy-in. Interacting and engagements was the challenge, but I think this is partially because of the pandemic pushed us away from each other and almost forced us into this siloed approach in our day-to-day. So the question then became, how do we bring people back together? So I essentially started by soliciting ideas across multiple teams on what fun events or dress-up days that we could do, because my idea of fun might not be the same, across the board to Gene or to yourself. So getting those different ideas really helps to kind of, broaden the inclusivity. So one example, we celebrated National Cooking Day, where if you share a photo of something you've made or a favorite recipe that you had to try. We had fun dress-up days like wearing green or camo on Veterans Day. I don't know if anyone's a Mean Girls fan, but on Wednesdays we wore pink. Some of these events you would get coins or points for, but over time it became more about the fun rather than the incentive.
That's super smart. So kind of like creating, like, let's say culture events or something internally to, bring people together. Yes, there's a nice little reward perk as part of it, which can be an incentive to get people through the door, let's say, right? But like sort of the ongoing events. I love that. Very, very cool. Let's maybe go to Jennifer on this one as well next.
So I guess I'll sort of share the challenge I faced before, because I largely haven't had any challenges after because implementation has been so good. But our our big challenge, our key challenge before was that we were spending so much time and energy in getting Amazon gift cards and compiling new hire swag and finding out where to store that swag and then shipping that swag. And then if it's clothing, like how weird is it to ask somebody what size they are? And it just like, it couldn't be the personalized experience that we wanted it to be. And so there just wasn't heart around it. And that was kind of the primary driver for the people and culture team before. So we had to prove that this would be an investment in the right place that would save me time. And in a small and mighty team of 2, my time is pretty valuable, as is all of you as people and culture, HR people, I'm sure. So I had to really prove that this would be an investment in the right place. But we didn't have a whole lot of problems, sort of like you heard from Jean and from Daniel. Implementation's pretty simple, and the team is really great of keeping on track of everything. Any updates like, hey, we want to add this. Hey, we'd like to add experiences. Hey, can we add this additional, foundation that we wanted to add for Giving Tuesday? No problem. Within 12 hours, it was up. So we really haven't had a whole lot of struggles with Bucket List. And we announced it at our team member summit in September of 2022. And we were like, something cool is coming and on October 1st, get ready. And like Jean, like our people and culture team and the implementation team, we were the ambassadors. And when we rolled it out, it was instantaneous. So month 1, we had 100% participation. Month 2, we had 100% participation. Month 3, we had 97% participation. And from October of last year to October of this year, our average is 96% engagement. So it's something that we knew was going to be successful. And because we've implemented it in the right way, we haven't really struggled a whole lot with it.
So that is incredible to have that level of consistent engagement over time. And this is a question that I will often get is like, hey, we expect there's going to be, a lot of interest right away, but it's going to start to taper off after 3, 6, 9 months. So question for you, is there anything in particular that you did in order to keep the engagement levels up? Like, was there a conscious decision, hey, we need to continue to do this thing, whether it was add new rewards into the system, as maybe you've indicated, or were there some other strategies that you utilized to ensure that people continue to engage with the platform?
Yeah. So I'll answer Patrick's question in the chat first. So we rolled out to the entire organization. We didn't do a soft launch. It was like, we were ready and we knew we were ready. And so we launched to everybody right away. How we sort of kept people involved and included was several different things. So one of the things that we already had in place was something on people's calendar every Monday morning called Feedback Friday. And it was like, take a second, think about your week before you dive into your last weekday. Think about, what did somebody do to resolve an issue, to solve a problem, to make your life easier, make you smile, like helped you immensely. Take a second and shine a light on them. Even if you are having a terrible day, the moment that you are expressing gratitude and shining a light on somebody else, in that moment, it's impossible to be unhappy, even if it's just while you're typing it out. And so we already have that kind of behavior built in systematically. We also talk about it in our, we use Zoom chat. So we have like a AMA water cooler chat, and we talk about it there, like, oh, I'm throwing my bucket list points at this. So-and-so did a great job. We always have that. And then we also see who hasn't used points. And so I'll be like, hey, we're at the halfway point. Like, your goal is to give your points away before the end of the month. Like, chop, chop. And so whenever I do that, then we see a rush of people giving their points away. So we've built it into a space that's used so much. And because people redeem those points so frequently, they're in it all the time.
Right. So it sounds like it's embedded across kind of multiple places. And there are some specific processes like, your Fridays and all those kinds of things and some reminders, but it sounds like it's kind of truly embedded across multiple communication channels.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that as well. And Jean, what about you?
We had unique challenges. So as I mentioned before, we had a family-owned company that we were part of. There were about 750 of us. It was acquired in December by a private equity firm. So as opposite as you can possibly get, opposite ends of the spectrum. So no issue with the folks that were in the former employee, but it was selling it to leadership now with the new company. And is it worth, is the juice worth the squeeze on the amount of money that we were going to put into this product? It took a lot of convincing of leadership that this was the right way to go, a lot of number crunching in that. But what sold the leadership on this was, I've been through a lot of acquisitions. The top three are typically what's going to happen with my pay, what's going to happen with my benefits. But in this case, number three was what's happening with bucket list. So it sold itself basically to the leadership that half of the population did not want anything to happen to bucket list, and then introducing it to yet another 750 employees and having them get engaged in it. And we're right up there too, Jennifer. We've got a really good engagement percentage with bucket list. And so it sells itself. And like I said, we've got a very competitive workforce. And so they see somebody giving it to someone else, and they want to make sure that they play along too. One of the challenges, and I think we probably see this across the board, is don't give lame recognition. Like, don't say, oh, she helped me out with opening the door, or what, I'll just use that as an example, or she smiled at me today, or what. That's not what this is for. This is for above and beyond efforts. And so we always have to keep reminding folks, this is pure money that you're giving away. We want to make sure that it's intentional.
That makes sense. And I think tying it back to core values is a great way to do that. We talked about that earlier. So this is a unique position that you were in, where you had, one group who had been using bucket lists in the past. Everyone was really happy with it. You went through an acquisition and you had to kind of resell it to, the new leadership team, let's say. What I heard you say there is that you came in kind of prepared with, hey, this group over here really loves this. So in a lot of ways, it was already kind of selling itself. Was there any other key things that you focused on in order to convince the group over here that, hey, this is like, was it just the data from this group, or is there anything else you had to bring to that conversation?
No, we had to reset because as I mentioned, the previous owner of the company that was sold was ultra generous. Like, she gave huge amounts of money for service anniversaries, up to $4,000 a year for service anniversary. I knew that wasn't going to make it with the new company, and it probably shouldn't, right? We also did, big awards for login, big awards for other things that just had to be scaled back, and people just had to realize that this was a new day, right? We were acquired, and in order to keep this program, we had to do some trade-offs. And so, that was a lesson learned for everybody, and it's chugging along again. It's right back to where it was.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, let's move on to the next question. And, I'm being aware of the time here. This dialogue has been so good that we're probably going a little longer on some of these answers, which I'm happy with. We can keep this thing rolling. So everyone who's participating today, by all means, stick around. We're still going to have time for Q&A at the end. Question 4 here. What are some effective ways to measure the impact of rewards and recognition for an organization? And do you have any suggestions for how you can track ROI specifically? So maybe, Jean, why don't we come back to you on this one?
I knew you would do that. We don't truly track ROI. What we do is we track engagement and retention. And this is one output of it, right? We're not taking full credit that bucket list is going to drive all of engagement, all of retention. But certainly, when we do our engagement survey first quarter of next year, there's going to be a question about the recognition program and, what changes would you like to see made? What has driven your behavior because of it? Those are kind of the ways that I would measure an impact of recruiting or of retention on an organization.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. And Jennifer, let's come to you next.
So for the American Marketing Association, engagement is a organizational success metric. So we have to take that to the board. So we do twice a year engagement surveys that dive into it. And for the last year, our engagement has gone up. And the kind of the commentary that's going along with that is people love bucket list. And so people are honestly understanding like this is literally free money. And so, you know, that was a really big driver of our engagement. And that was sort of how we track the impact and track the return on investment is engagement that we can report back to our board.
Really smart. So you do regular engagement surveys, and you see or feel that employee rewards and recognition specifically touches that. Did you notice like a marked difference when you introduced a strategy around this in your engagement results?
We did, because I think one of the things that can't be understated is how people like to receive recognition. And so there are some people who believe that like the loud screaming, "You're fabulous," is inauthentic. People don't like to be called out and recognized and have a light shine on them. And so one of the cool things a bucket list does is it allows you to either say everybody sees the recognition or only the recipient and the admin see the recognition. And so for people who are more introverted and who, you know, just weren't as loud, they were able to give and receive feedback in a way that was meaningful to them and came to them where they were and how they like to interact. And so those were the people that we really needed to engage with, because they weren't the loud and proud and the screaming, "You're rad, we love you, woohoo, team spirit." Those were the people that we really needed to like kind of lift up and bring them along. And they embraced it because they knew that they would be able to engage with it in a way that they were comfortable with.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you for that. And Daniel, let's hear from you on this one.
Yeah, similar to Jennifer, we took the survey approach where we did a pre and post survey, or pre and post launch survey, where we partnered with our people analytics team to determine, you know, what kind of questions would allow us to gain insights on how to tailor this program to our audience. So, you know, from that, we definitely saw huge improvements. Some of the questions being like, what form of recognition do you prefer? And similar to the one that we were asked here, how does recognition make you feel? You know, so seeing those results change in a matter of months was amazing.
I love it. And those are some really great examples of the types of questions you might want to ask someone, you know, when you're thinking about building the structure for this program. So that's fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. So wanted to ask the panel if you can share your strategies for designing a recognition program that encourages widespread adoption and engagement. And I think we've touched on this in some of our answers through today, but if we had to kind of like concisely put it into a few key bullet points, let's say, of these are the things that you got to do in order to get widespread adoption. Just curious, because we've had so much success with this group, how you were able to do that. And Daniel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I also want to take this time to expand on Patrick's question in the chat. He asked if we rolled out to the entire company at once, or did we roll out as a smaller group? Now, Cloud Kitchens was different than the rest of the panel because we onboarded in waves and by different divisions. This is particularly because each division wanted something different. Some were focused on awarding coins or points based on KPIs, while others were more loose and geared towards the fun and engagement. So we definitely encouraged the flexibility to toggle between both as they saw fit. And then as anticipated, you know, the first couple of divisions were a bit rocky with onboarding, but as we continued through the process and monitored the trends of what was critical to have, we established essentially a toolkit, like a one-stop shop that included a slide deck to pitch to key stakeholders. I created a budgeting calculator to understand the costs associated with different scenarios. And truthfully, in the current states, we're moving like clockwork. Each division is onboarding experience is getting, you know, more efficient each time.
That's amazing. And when you were kind of building that out initially, did you have to consult with those team leads? Did you have to kind of resell to them the concept of this, or was it more, let's gather your input for how the structure of a program like this could work specifically for your team? What was that process like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I asked for at least 1 to 2 volunteers. I would say other companies are calling them ambassadors. We personally call them division admins. So they're going to be the ones responsible for determining, the budgets associated with their division, what kind of campaigns they wanted to run, or what kind of KPIs, how much those awards would be worth, and then also being responsible for distributing those awards as well.
Awesome. So yeah, consulting with everyone, kind of getting their input and doing that to build out the structure of the program. I love it.
Absolutely.
And a great way to get everyone involved and excited, right?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, awesome. Jean, what about you?
We have an open door on this. So I'm the contact for bucket list for the organization. And they just know that if they have an idea, like when we were going through the pandemic and rising gas prices and inflation and all of that, I got a lot of requests for gas cards. So you can really trend as to what the economy's doing versus, and you can get ahead of it, absolutely. But I wanted to hear from the employees as to what they really wanted. And so we're meeting them where they are. We want to make sure that this is their program. It's not my program. And so we do things like that to encourage it.
Super smart. So like regularly asking the employees what types of rewards are meaningful for you. I love the example of gas cards. And by the way, we saw that actually across our platform entirely, across our entire customer base, groceries as well. All of those things we saw a bit of an uptick in. So yeah, making the marketplace like relevant and constantly evolving for employees that they want to engage. Love that. Okay. And Jennifer, what about you?
I would say the strategy that I would recommend for others is to meet people where they are and meet your organization where your organization is in this moment and where you're looking to go. So is gratitude or core values, are those meaningful and present in your organization? Do you want them to be? So if you launch something like this, like have some meaning and weight as to why this is meaningful to your organization. If you're just like, here's something else, it's not going to take. You've got to find that connection. And if you can find that connection point, you'll be able to drive buy-in and adoption. Some of the things that worked for us, it has a really great mobile app. And so there are some times when it's just like I'm laying in bed at 10 o'clock at night, and then it occurs to me, oh my God, this thing that somebody did really impacted. Like now I'm not going to have to freak out about this meeting tomorrow. I'm going to give them points right now while I'm thinking of it before I forget. We also, something that's probably might not be viable for every organization, but we eat the cost of tax on redemption. So people get more. So if we do like a spot bonus, they get the entire amount as opposed to, ooh, congratulations, here's your spot bonus. Teeny piece of the pie. And we also built in philanthropy into our platform. So people have the opportunity to donate to causes that are meaningful to them. And that's something that's aligned with the AMA. Like we give 6 volunteer days per year for people to do that. So we aligned kind of the mission and the vision of the organization and then tied it to the things that they could do in bucket list. And that was our strategy so that it was easy. It was easy.
A lot of really great ideas in there. I wanted to hone in on the tax comment because we get a lot of questions about that, right? And we have our kind of recommended path for how to be in compliance and how to handle all that stuff. My question is, absorbing the tax on behalf of your employees is a very generous thing that and not everyone's in a position to do.
Right.
But I'm curious how you budgeted for that. Like, what was the process to kind of predict that?
Sure. So we looked at redemption. So every month we go through because it's built into, we note it in payroll and we track it in payroll as a deduction and then a credit. And so that way we have a record of it as compensation. And so that shows up as a slice of the pie in somebody's compensation. So when we looked at what redemption looked like, we could say, all right, well, we're going to budget $4,000 a month for feeding the redemption bucket. And that sort of included the average cost or the average tax that we would be absorbing. So some of it we couldn't gauge right away. So we kind of took a risk. But at the same time, it's been successful for us. I know that's not viable for most places.
But the strategy is though, right? So what I heard you say there is once redemption started rolling, like initially there was some guesswork probably, right? And maybe some recommendations from bucket list perhaps on how to plan for that. But once redemption started rolling, you were using bucket list to run your reports on what was being redeemed, the frequency, value, and that allowed you to kind of identify a trend so that you could plan for that ongoing.
Yep. And we ran redemption reports. We started doing it biweekly, which is aligned with what our payroll cycle is. And so we were able to see, we're coming up on Christmas. We're going to have to like fund it a little bit more heavily, or else we're going to run out and we're going to get these notifications from bucket list saying, hey, you're running low, fund up. But then there are some times that are a little slower. So January and February are going to be slower because people are going to be building back up, their squirreled away points to get things for spring break or, whatever, Valentine's Day or whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I think that's going to be really helpful because we get a lot of questions about tax. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. Okay. Well, that was the end of kind of the planned questions that we had. I did want to do kind of a quick summary with everyone and basically just ask each of you on the panel to kind of share, what you think is a must for success with employee recognition. So for anyone who's in our audience that's thinking about bringing in a formalized program, what would you say is sort of the most important thing for them to keep in mind in order to make this successful? Daniel, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah. I would say an absolute must to run a successful rewards and recognition program is communication. And that might sound cliche or typical, but I would equate communication like a movie. How often are we watching movies based off of the title? Without the trailer giving that context or drawing you in. So the same communication that goes out about bucket list, similar to Gene's story, where the teasers was enough to kind of get the train rolling. So I would say definitely devise a plan, communicate early, and constant communication is the key.
I love it. And also I'm noticing a very specific skill with you, Daniel. You are excellent at analogies. So that helps paint the picture for everyone. So thank you. Yeah, we even got a comment, someone saying the same thing there in the chat. Awesome. Gene, how about yourself?
Oh my gosh, do I have to follow Daniel? He's amazing. Good grief. I love what Daniel said. Communication is absolutely key. I think making this a program that is theirs, right? I think we need to make it such that they feel like they have ownership in it and they have accountability in it. And we just need to make sure that they understand this is a benefit that a lot of companies don't have right now. They don't have it. And so we want to make sure that we keep this really nice perk and use it to the best of its ability.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jennifer?
Mine's a little bit kind of going a little bit higher. What's a must for success for an employee recognition program is a culture of feedback. So if you don't have a culture of feedback, I don't know if this is going to be something that your organization is ready for. It can certainly help. But making sure that you have a culture of feedback, like, are people praised? Do people have a mechanism to express their gratitude towards one another? That needs to be part of either who you are right now or where you're shooting for. That is going to be the must for success. Otherwise, you're going to get, the garbage feedback. The thanks for holding the door open for me. It's like the Yelp review, right? It's just like the tacos were crap. Sorry. Or I went on a Tuesday and the tacos weren't great, but then I came back on Thursday and they had more staff and the tacos were fantastic. Customer service was top notch. Which feedback is more useful for you as a consumer?
Yeah.
So teaching people how to give feedback. So these are things that should be in place, and that's going to make this a success for your organization.
an excellent point, and I'm going to ask one very quick follow-up, like lightning round question. What do you think is the best way to encourage that culture of feedback or support that culture of feedback? Like, how do you get people to provide feedback in the way that you've just suggested? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I
with
mean,
that.
we do. I mean, I'm a big nerd about training. So like I build this in orientation to bucket list happens for new hire orientation. And
Yeah.
when we do new hire orientation, we talk about what good feedback looks like. When we're onboarding managers, we talk about this is useful feedback. This is garbage feedback. When we onboarded bucket list a year ago, we did a deck that was presented to us by bucket list of like, this is garbage feedback. This is great feedback. This is what it looks like. And so when we notice that feedback is a little vague and it's pretty evident they're just trying to give their points away, then people will step in and respond to that and say, I concur. So-and-so did such a great job with this specific thing at this specific time. And so they're modeling that behavior for others.
Got it. So that really smart. So it's defining what that criteria is, like what is good feedback, and then building that right in from day one in the training. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
Let me add something here, Curtis, real quickly.
Please.
We've started Monday Motivation. So Monday Motivation is in our info channel every Monday, and I give examples of what great feedback looks like in bucket list. And they're catching on now. It's slow, but they're catching on to that. So any little thing will help.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that takes us to the end of our planned content. I've got a couple of quick poll questions. We're going to give each panelist the opportunity to share a little bit more about what they do. And then we'll move into Q&A. So please, if you've got Q&A, stick around. I've seen a couple questions trickle in already as well. To move to the next poll question, we always love to gather feedback on the content. I love these fireside chats because, we're speaking directly to the experts, but I'd love to hear from our participants as well, how they felt about the content today. This, of course, is anonymous, everyone, so bear that in mind. I'm going to launch the poll here, but this is really just all about gathering your feedback. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick moment to kind of give us your rating there, that'd be super helpful. Awesome. We're seeing some results roll in. Perfect. We'll give this another just a couple minutes here. A couple seconds, I should say. All right. Couple more seconds. Awesome. Okay, we'll go ahead and end that poll. Thank you all for your feedback. We very much value it. I want to take a minute to just talk about bucket list as well here. So I mentioned at the start, we are a rewards and recognition platform here at Bucket List. We work with a ton of great companies, including the ones that our panelists are from here today. And we have a really robust solution that will help you with all of these things. We have experts on our team as well that can act as consultants and help you build a really strong program. So if you're interested in learning more about Bucket List, there's a QR code here you can scan on screen. You're also welcome to reach out to me or to any of my colleagues directly. Now I'm going to give our panelists a chance to just quickly summarize their organizations, what they do, and then we're going to move to Q&A. So Jennifer, we'll go ahead and kick it off with you.
So the American Marketing Association, we are a nonprofit organization that serves individual marketers through the entirety of their career. So whether they're a student, whether they're a marketing practitioner, or whether they're an academic, we provide solutions-based content for them.
Awesome. Quick and to the point. Love it. All right. Daniel, how about yourself?
Yeah, so for cloud kitchens, if you've ever been to a facility where there are multiple restaurants under one roof, there is a chance that you've been to one of our cloud kitchens locations. These are also commonly referred to as a ghost kitchen. So what we do is we streamline the process for you to expand your businesses and operate in numerous countries across the globe. So for more information, please visit us at cloudkitchens.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. And Jean, of course, over to you.
Yep. So I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier, but we are the world's largest leading integrated site organization for clinical research. We are in it to make sure that the right drugs are approved through the FDA. We're very close with the FDA. In the time of the pandemic, it was a big push for the trials and making sure that Pfizer and Moderna both had their drugs ready for the vaccinations. So we're all about human health and well-being in Europe and the United States, expanding outside of those boundaries as well now. 15,000 plus trials have been conducted, and we have a lot of patients that are in the hopper. So there you go.
Great. That's great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
I'm going to bring up the professional development credits on screen here. I'm also going to type these in the chat. But before I do that, I'm going to launch one more quick poll. So I mentioned a little bit about who Bucket List is and how we can potentially help. I shared that offer. Just want to launch a quick poll to see who might be interested in learning more about Bucket List. If the answer to this question is yes, just go ahead and select that, and we'll reach out to you directly following this. A no pressure conversation. Just wanted to gather some quick feedback on who would like to learn a little bit more about Bucket List. So I'll let that run for a quick second while we've got your credits on screen. And I'll also go ahead and just copy these into the chat for everyone. Everyone can see the credits okay on screen there? Okay, awesome. Again, they're in the chat. We'll let this continue to roll for just another quick second here. And I'll do a little countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Awesome. Thank you so much for your feedback on that. And of course, we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. I know we're a little bit over. I appreciate everyone sticking around. So let's go ahead and address some questions here. Now, I did see one that came through, and Jennifer, you answered it, I think maybe privately. So I want to just restate the question and then have you provide your answer if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. And I'll mention just while we're doing this, I know we still got quite a few people on the call, even though we ran over. So thank you for sticking around. If you have questions for our panelists, now is your chance. So please drop them into the chat and we'll make sure that we get them answered for you. The first question I've got here is, how do you make it feel big with a smaller budget? 1 year of recognition won't fund a vacation at our company. And Jennifer, I'll pass it to you to answer that.
Sure. So a couple of things that you can do. One of the things that we know from the data that we've pulled is that 95% of our redemptions are for gift cards, Amazon, Whole Foods, gas cards, Visa, in $10 to $50 increments. So they're small. You can limit the amount of points that you have to give away. And you can also limit the amount of points that people can redeem. So that is a way that you can mitigate cost.
Super smart. Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I would say definitely, celebrating each achievement, each win, making it more meaningful and impactful, and kind of shifting that focus away from, the budget, where you can make 10 points feel like $1 million.
Awesome. Jean, you agree? Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, we do special events too. So, we do, when we were branding, in the midst of branding with the new company, we gave bucket list points for someone who branded their email with the new company. They branded their LinkedIn with the new company. So I think there are ways you can do it. And we only gave them $10 each for each of those, but they were like, whoa, this is cool. We get $20. There are other ways to do this too. I've done Gratitude Tuesday in the past, where you give something out for gratitude. And Jen, this is part of your core values, but it goes a long ways. Just the small amount goes a long way.
Yeah, all really great answers. I'll add something too from my perspective. So the way I look at rewards and recognition is that the rewards piece of it is like the nice to have, or it's like the nice bonus. The real value for most people, believe it or not, is in the recognition. And it comes back to all those things we were talking about at the beginning. Everyone was saying feeling seen, feeling valued. I think people generally take pride in their work, and they want people to acknowledge that they're putting in an effort and that they care about the work that they're doing. And so even non-monetized recognition really goes a long way to build that sense of community and make people feel valued. So there are certainly low-cost ways that you can reward people, or no-cost ways that you can reward them just through recognition. But I'll give one more quick example. In the Bucket List platform, we have the ability to create non-monetary rewards, and we have a lot of customers that have really lean budgets that utilize that. So things like VIP parking for a month, which doesn't cost you anything, could be a reward. We depending on your audience or your demographic, this might work as well. I have one customer that has a reward called the CEO calls your mom and tells her what a great employee you are. Now that's for a company that has a lot of Gen Zs, but like that really works for them and doesn't cost them anything. So there are some low cost ways that you can do it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. All right, we've got another question here. How do you make taxes applied to the employee seem seamless? Bonuses are usually taxed at our company. And Jennifer, I see you jumped in on that one as well, so I'll pass to you first.
Yeah, we worked with our payroll provider. So we wanted to make sure that it was something that was feasible before we offered it. And so our payroll provider was able to advise us on the best way to categorize it so that we were compliant. So it's considered like a fringe benefit, and then we grossed up. And so instead of paying net, we grossed up. So they were able to add deduction and earnings codes. So it's more work for me when I do payroll, but it's worth it.
Awesome. Anyone else want to jump in on that one? I think Jennifer's the tax expert here, based on what you said.
She said it best.
Awesome. I've got another question here. Any ideas for engagement with a smaller company? So this is less than 100 employees, and that's split between 3 cities. Anyone have some feedback for that?
I mean, the AMA has 75 people in 22 states.
Yeah.
And so because we are an office environment, like we all do office work, we're on Zoom, we're in a Zoom chat or Slack channel or whatever that may look like at your organization. We work really collaboratively anyway. So that collaboration is really, really key and driving engagement for everyone. So it can be done. Another way for savings is that if I may build on that really quickly, it was an addition of $2 more per person per month. But we found that we could add the location of our new employees, and then it would automatically populate with experiences there. And so we had employees that are in North Carolina. We had people that were in Wisconsin go to North Carolina on vacation and utilize some of those experiences on their vacation, and it was going to a museum. So when we talk about it being tailored, it's really tailored, and we don't have to do much for it. It's just the way the bucket list is set up.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Anyone else want to add any comments to that one? Cool. I think Jennifer summed it up nicely. That's great. I'll share a quick tip that I see as well, and this is more of like a tactical thing, but I believe that often, not all the time, but often people leaders are the ones that set the expectation and precedent for the rest of your organization. So in a small company, you'll have a handful of people leaders. I would make sure that they're super trained up, comfortable, and excited about rewards and recognition, because if they actively engage, that's going to empower their teammates and the people that report into them to engage as well. It also lets them set like the criteria for the types of recognitions you should see. But if you get them engaged, that's a great way to get team members engaged. And I've seen that through, just kind of like constant reinforcement, reminders. Some companies I've worked with have built it into manager KPIs. Hey, you have to recognize this many people every couple months or something like that, or every couple weeks, whatever that structure looks like. That's some ways that you can get some engagement as well, kind of from the top down. Another question just came in here. These are great questions, by the way, everyone. Thank you. What about engagement for employees that don't work in an office? Anyone want to tackle that?
That is a fun one. So we are in the situation where, a lot of us are remote and not in office. Some are in headquarters in, Los Angeles to Seattle and other countries. I would say the biggest thing is getting people involved, and to double tap on what Curtis had mentioned, ensuring that the leadership is also bought in. If your leadership team is not engaged or not interacting with the platform, that kind of sends the message that like, if this isn't important to you, then I shouldn't worry about it either.
Love it.
We give more points to managers of others.
Mhm.
And the goal is to give away all of your points
Right.
and get on the leaderboard of who's giving away points. And so we're incentivizing managers of others to really engage with it. We're also really competitive too. So people like to be on the leaderboard.
There was I know Jennifer, you kind of typed this in an answer as well, but the mobile app is a great way to engage people who aren't in a centralized office and maybe are in the field, right? We work with a lot of organizations where they've got some corporate employees that are behind a computer all day, but they've got a lot of people that are doing field work. And so ensuring that they get access to the mobile app that we have for Bucket List is a great way to keep them engaged as well. Awesome. Okay. Well, we are almost 15 minutes over our scheduled time, if you can believe it. I think we should probably move to wrap. These were really fantastic questions from the audience. So thank you everyone for your participation. And to the whole panel, I cannot thank you enough for the gift of your time today, the gift of your knowledge. This was so much fun. And based on the feedback we've already received, it was extremely valuable for everyone that attended. So thank you all for your time to this.